Once the clock starts and you leave Banff, it doesn't stop until you get to Antelope Wells or give up. Yeah, so in June, it happens every year. It's the second Friday of the month. This year is Friday the 13th, actually. And it's the Tour Divide. It's an unsupported, basically from Banff, Alberta, Canada, all the way down to the Mexican border. So now the route covers about something close to 2,800 miles, 50,000 meters of elevation gain. Yeah, it's an incredible unsupported or self-supported race. It's more than an adventure; it's a bit of an odyssey, and people come from all over the world to take part in this every year, and people take anywhere from 2 weeks to a month to complete this. The thing that's unique about our trip, of course, I say our, is I'm not doing it by myself, so I'm doing it with my dog Mira and we're the only ones to have done it. We did it in 2023, and we're doing it again this year in 2025.
John, what's the stats on how many people start the race and how many people finish it?
Yeah, well, depending on how you look at it, they're not good. About anywhere from 200 to 300 people start, and then there's a lot of attrition. It's really hard, and the terrain is such that you can tour it, like you can have relaxing days, and you could get to hotels or good campsites, but it's the nature of a race is so different. So you're riding extreme distances at times per day because it's self-supported. You're going and getting all this shopping, mechanicals. We plan and we train. So yeah, physical issues, like it could just be sitting on the bike seat. Hands go numb, nerve damage, neck problems, this that physical stuff. The mental thing, riding at night or the long distances alone, or even in groups or navigation, that kind of stuff. I'd be surprised if a half finish. I bet you that's probably pretty good.
Where would you say your headspace is before taking on this one?
Fortunately, it's long enough that I'm excited to do it again. Because I know it's going to hurt. Like no matter how much you enjoy it, how much you plan, it's going to, sleep deprivation, eating a bunch of junk food, spending so much time on the bike. I'm really excited to do it. We learned a lot. Like I learned like how my dog, how her energy goes throughout the day. Um, Getting her out of the basket or back into the bike. Kind of measuring her energy, and I have much more of a goal, like a real sort of goal focus this time. I thought I knew what I needed to do on the first time, and I didn't. Like you start to negotiate with yourself. Oh, I can get a bit more sleep, or oh, that's far enough for the day, or yeah. So now I have a real clear schedule to try and make. And so, yeah, that kind of self uh, created pressure can really kind of crush a person. And we did it last time. It was like, we just need to finish. And so, regardless, and the people you meet, like, they're amazing. They've taken all this time to train, to prepare, to choose their gear, all the opportunity costs they've lost, their families are waiting for them. They're just so positive. And it's good to do hard things, like to do something hard and learn about yourself, learn about, meet other people that are doing hard stuff. I think it's a unique experience in life. And so, if I can, no matter what the final time is, um, the process of of pushing myself to my limit and finding what that is, I think is that what's attracting me to it.
Steve, what was your reaction when you started thinking about it and thinking about what the requirements for the build process would be like?
So, what's really interesting is John and I started so long ago that this wasn't the definitive marker that we put down in the sand as why we were building the bike. It lends itself now to being kind of perfect, but when we first started the process, John's on this journey of traversing all the continents of the world, and And so when we started designing the bike, it was more about, how can we build a bike that's going to sort of go through all these different ecosystems, climate systems, is really going to be a long-term solution for John to succeed on his journey. Very much the things that we talked about, the bike being able to handle over the next few years that John's going to go on his journey is very much what he's going to be up against in the next few months when he's thinking and about the tour and getting on starting the tour. And so we needed a bike that was obviously going to be strong enough to be able to hold him, hold some gear, hold a dog, hold some gear for a dog, and then withstand all the elements. So all that sort of combined made for a super interesting project for me to be a part of.
What were the iterative processes like? Like, how did that work with you guys?
What was really fantastic is that we had this model of a bike that we were sort of happy to begin with and sort of take it to the next level. Everything from the geometry, some of the tubing we changed, some of the way the dropouts work, we were changing up. Moving to a suspension fork. The element that I sort of spent the most time really trying to figure out on my end was the rear rack. I wanted the freedom to design the bike the way we wanted to, and being at a place at Extracycle where I'm designing rear racks all the time and racks that do require some of the heavy lifting to withstand some of the heavy lifting that our bikes do. I was really excited about designing a rack for the bike. That's sort of the part of the process that I spent probably the most time on.
That's awesome, John. What were some of the things when in your early conversations that were setting some of the requirements?
It became really quickly, it was a collaboration, like there's what I'm trying to do with the bike, and then how can we bring that into the real world, I think has been pretty cool. Like basically what the bike is more or less a mid-tail mountain bike. So a little bit longer than the front is very similar to a regular mountain bike, and then a bit longer. And then of course this one too also has the spacing to hold a fat bike wheel as well. So it's pretty unique. That I think the thing that was really awesome was just how open Steve was to hearing, that input from the experience of riding this bike, some of the things that I liked, some of the things I didn't. And then he has this ability to take that and bring that into like to the manufacturing, to like how does that get created? There's some things that can't happen that, as a non-bike builder, I don't know, like how many curves can we put into the chainstays to make it do what we want it to do.
Absolutely. I think one thing that was really nice for me, something that John touched upon, is that, usually when we're designing bikes, it's trying to think of, what is the demographic? Who are the people who are going to be riding this bike? What's really cool with this bike is we were just building it for one person. And, I think a lot of times with bikes, stuff starts getting watered down a little bit because you're like, well, okay, yeah, so-and-so is going to use it for this, but maybe sometimes they're going to also want to do this with the bike. And it was really nice not to have that extra noise about designing the bike. It was single purpose, right now, a single rider in mind, and go from there. And I thought that was amazing. It was really a good experience for me to work within those confines.
It seems like when you design for use case, and yes, not everybody is going to do a worldwide tour with a dog and all the gear for two of you. But I would imagine there's probably some learnings that are scalable for conditions for people who are doing some pretty challenging bike packing rides.
I think what it opened up for me was almost a new segment of cargo bikes in general. The mid-tail mountain bike is a really new sort of item that is come upon the marketplace, and so it was really new to me. Up until now, when we thought about cargo, really thinking about larger scale bikes, not necessarily things that are going to be going on different kinds of terrain, not really thinking about it in terms of like a bike packing bike. And so what this really almost did for me was open up an idea of what a different segment of bicycle in itself can be. To your point, I think, you start designing, and as I said, there was one person in mind, but when I'm designing this bike, I'm not thinking, oh, this is going to be great for all those people riding with the dog on the back. Yeah, that's one thing, but even when I'm planning on going on a bike packing trip, like when I look at this bike and I see what I can carry on it and think about, yeah, I might be more loaded up and I might be going a little slower than I normally would be, but now I can bring X more amount of gear. It means I can do such different rides because I can bring more gear. It absolutely sort of opened up this whole new segment for me that, to be honest, before I was chatting with John, I hadn't really even thought about as a place that Extracycle would think about being in.
Just to hit on what you said too, like I think the bike is capable of carrying a lot of weight. Like Mira, my border collie, she's 40 pounds. So that's like like if you think about the water cooler, that size of water jug, that's the weight of my dog. So she's on and off the bike depending on the terrain, but it's a lot. But the other thing is that the big thing about the bike is not just that it can carry a lot of weight, because you don't need to carry a lot of weight. It's how it spreads the weight out and how it balances the weight. I think that's another important factor. We have spaces on the bike, both on the rack and then mid frame, that can handle bags, to drop the weight low and keep things streamlined. And so, there might be a section of riders where this becomes sort of like a quiver killer. If you're a skier, it's like, yeah, you have a mountain bike, you can go ride the trails. Maybe not super gnarly that maybe an enduro bike would. It still climbs pretty well, and yet you can still go get your groceries, maybe on the way back home from your ride. So it's um, pretty interesting how the bike could be used, and I think it'll be pretty amazing to see others and how they think they might want to use the bike. And because I think we've worked together pretty well, and we have this machine. It kind of I feel like I need to up my performance, on the bike. I see it sitting in the background there, and I'm super excited to ride this thing. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Over priority, for me, 11 years, all I've known is the progression that we've had with the belt drive. I'm intimately connected with belt drive and what it could do 11 years ago through to today. And I know you have a commitment to using Opinion and Gates belt drive. And, I'm just wondering for you, like with that kind of being the centerpiece of the bike, like what's been the difference for you with Opinion and Gates setup on your adventures?
Yeah, it's funny, a little bit like you, like, I have a long cycling background, but I've been on a belt now for so long, I sort of start to forget how what it's like to ride, with a chain and a chain and a derailleur, and until I ride with someone else that has one, and then I'll see that the bike is dirtier, it's a little bit noisier. They're making adjustments and having to do maintenance on a regular basis. Um, yeah, so now it's like, I have this clean bike. It shifts exactly the way I want it to every single time, and it doesn't really require a lot of maintenance. Give it a little bit of cleaning here and there. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, and it seems like it's they've been around for a long time, but it's really one of those things where people see professional road racing or mountain biking, or just their bike that they grew up with, and they're resistant to trying this thing. They think it's some new fangled, but you get a few rides under your belt with these, and yes, I can't imagine going back. Like with anything else, components will wear out. Um, but that's such a longer span of time. It's pretty incredible. I'm not going to bang off a derailleur along the way because there isn't one hanging out there. So it's been pretty awesome, and it's a conversation starter for everyone.
Yeah.
You know,
Do
so there's
does your feed fire with people asking about the pinion shifting. What you said is getting a few rides under your belt. I don't know how to tell people that every bike you've ever ridden has taken some sort of transition, right? From the first time you rode to getting your first multi-speed bike to your one by, right? Like your riding styles change. But for some reason, the pinion just seems to be this lightning rod for people where they want to resist against the benefits of it. And you just say like, hey, as soon as you ride it a few times, like you just don't want to go back to the derailleur. I think certainly when you're looking at touring, and you're looking at from a support perspective and not wanting to worry about having problems on the fly, I think it's a huge relief. For me, it's just second nature now. But are those questions that come up a lot for you?
There's things that it does that you don't know until you ride it or if someone explains it to you. And like one of the things that it does is it allows you to shift without pedaling and without moving forward, which okay, whatever. But when you're riding a loaded bike and you stop at a light or you stop at an intersection on a hill to check your GPS where to go, oh, now I can just, turn the wrist or hit the button depending on the style of shifting activation you have, whether it's the smart shift or the manual. um, yeah, then it just changes gears into whatever, and the full range is accessible, which is incredible. And where it happens on mountain biking, when people are descending into a little gully, you know, and they need to stay balanced, so often their pedals are sort of, at the 3 and 9 o'clock position, that sort of flat position, and then they're about to do a steep hit on the other side. Well, you can just change gears, while you're riding and zip into it, and you can make the gears happen with a regular derailleur, but you have to shift the gears and then spin very quickly and hope you don't drop your chain or mess up the shifting. And you can do that guaranteed every single time. For me, I have those situations, and at the same time, I'm going to be thinking about grabbing the leash for Mira to help her out of the basket, for her to land, so that I don't have to ride up the steep hill with her in the basket, right? So, but I know I don't have to keep pedaling and to make the shift and to get her out. I can just make the shift. It's happened, and then deal with her when we get to the transition piece. So yeah, there's that, and I think the other thing that people balk against is there's in the system to shift gear under full pressure. There's a mechanism, I think it's to protect itself, but we've never really been shifting under full pressure. Like there's always a timing to our shifting, and like you said, you just got used to it. You got used to it before. You'll get used to it now, and yeah, it doesn't ever happen to me anymore. Like my pedal stroke will do to this change. It's like getting a new pair of eyeglasses and getting it adjusted to the prescription. At first you can't see anything or feels weird, and then the next week you really don't notice because you can see better than you you did before. And I think it's yeah. I think those benefits really outweigh any of the downsides.
What are you most excited about? When you're on the road and you have been on the road as much as you have, and then getting on the divide. Kind of what does what does that do for you within the big overall journey?
Yeah, that's kind of feel like a big question. I know there's going to be this moment, um, during the race where it all starts to really click in that there's been this, multi-month process that's come together, and from those three-dimensional drawings and the 2Ds, and here's this bike, and this whole project is coming together. I think that kind of realization sinking in. I'm excited for that. So it feels like there's just a lot here. So like yeah, it's excitement, and because initially you get the bike and you look at it and you're like, wow, this looks really quite amazing, because there's some really cool features there, like mirrors on there, and the paint and the name, and then just this process. So seeing that that's come and now it's a reality.
That part of the process, which I was sort of a little bit on the side of you and Elliot really coming down to the design of the graphics and the color of the bike. I thought that was really amazing because, you know, Elliot came forward with a few design frames that you sort of took a look, and you say this Dune theme, but that Dune theme took a life of its own, and I'm not really sure how it happened, but all of a sudden you guys were talking Dune, and you know, Elliot came up with this thing and it was awesome. Like, I love the look of the bike. And I can say that because I wasn't part and parcel to creating it. So it's not like I'm patting myself on the back with it.
It's always fun getting to work on like a new shape and a new bike in general. Like I think I've had a lot of experience working on like shorter bikes here at Priority. So when Steve brought it over, working on like a longer tailed bike, longer tubing, longer wheelbase, like it came with a whole bunch of like new technical challenges of like not only like what is paint going to look like on this thing, but how are we going to size decals and do that. And so I think like my first iterations for design, I'm just looking at different ways that I can, yeah, like either color block or, modify the shape to make it look interesting and really like accentuate the parts that I think make it look cool. And like, materiality speaks a lot to like the way you're going to do application on it. So, if it was a steel bike or an aluminum bike, I think we would have looked at a different treatment altogether. But knowing that we were going to do, a titanium frame, I wanted to make sure that that was like a core piece of the identity that that wouldn't get lost on our audience or people seeing this bike.
John, how did you feel? I know that, I wasn't sure you knew what to expect the first time, Elliot presented you with some frames and all of a sudden you had this person, painting this bike that's so personal to you.
First, I was just surprised, right? Because it's like at first, it was like, it was like this small project. It's like, we're going to build one bike. We don't know if it's even going to come to market. So let's, build off what we have and then I was like, okay, that seems like a lot of work, right? Because like creativity, like to bring, like you said, like it sort of creates the personality a little bit of the bike. On one of them, you had used. A scene of wind-blown dunes or mountains and used that as you had put the word in there as
Mm-hmm.
color inspiration for the palette.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the movie, the books. I think I've read all of the books, and Canadian director and all that kind of stuff. And then just the colors, and then they speak to where the bike is going or where it
Yeah.
can go, and all that kind of stuff. I think it all just fit together. The feeling and the vibration of the colors and the theme of Dune and that. Yeah, I was like, yeah, it just worked out perfect for me on my end. It was super easy. It was like, yeah, that's perfect.
There's so much trust that needs to happen between like the designer and the person who's we're designing the bike for. So I think when both parties end up with something that I think we're equally just like excited about, it's so cool. So I can't wait to see this thing in person.
For people who are going to get to learn about you in a new way at something like the Divide, or if you make it out on, if we get to ride Ragbri together, but what is it that you want people to take away from your content?
Wow, and you're coming down with these big questions. I'm not in it for the money, that's for sure. uh, yeah. Well, I think I don't feel like I have this artificial message that I'm just trying to like put out there and be like, hey, you should buy this image because I've like that's me and I'm cool. I think people will see what we're doing. I think they see this is my hope anyway, that they see how I'm riding through the world, interacting with people that we meet, that the world's not as scary as we might think of if we spend all our time on a screen. There's really amazing, wonderful people. Like if there is a message that we're more interconnected, we have more similarities than differences. And the bike's a great medium for that because we're traveling. We can travel long distances, but we don't rush through it. It's all pretty slow. And I kind of like to think that you can't get to where I'm going any other way. Like if you drove to the destination, that's not the goal. Like people are often asking me in these cities or towns, where are you going next? Where are you going? Where are you going? And for me, it's like where I'm going isn't all that important. It's that space in between that, and that's kind of like a little bit like the Tour Divide too, in a way. It's like there's nothing in Antelope Wells. Like there's a chain link fence with the sign that and the border, and that's not a destination for anyone. It's all this journey in between, which is not how we normally live our lives. I don't think, right? Like we have goals. I'm buying a house, I'm getting married, I'm doing the thing, or I want to go to a place, a destination, or when you put in Google Maps, you don't plug in the journey, you plug in the destination. So I think this is a little bit, yeah, this is different. So if people get that from the channel, that would be great. Yeah, and some happy dog looking for a stick or jumping around in the water. That's always amazing too, right?
I mean, look, you get the dog there that everybody loves, a good happy dog shot, but then you get the dream that no matter who you are, you always have a little bit of the, escapism in your life that you desire. And I think that getting to see it on your channel and the way you interact with people is definitely, it's an inspiration for people. And I think, whether or not you're ever going to do something like the Divide, maybe you just get up and you decide to like go on a little bike ride or hang out with your dog or hang out with your kids, and you maybe take the time to appreciate it more. So, hopefully, with what we're hoping that the bike is going to deliver for you on the road is just that you get to just spend more time enjoying that path and spending time with Mira and, meeting great people out there.